All Elite Wrestling will be holding its final pay-per-view of the year with AEW Worlds End. Of course, you know the deal. You've been here on the channel. If you haven't already, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. So we're here to predict every single matchup that's currently scheduled on the card. We're going to go ahead and start off with our first matchup here. The AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné defends her title against Chris Statlander. This is advertised as Statlander versus Monet 2, a rematch of their previous matchup earlier in the year. Mercedes Moné has been the TBS champion for the majority of the year, having been one of the more dominant champions in all of Elite Wrestling ever since signing with AEW. They treat her like a big deal, whether people like it or not. Mercedes Moné makes money. She is one of the top stars in that division, and against a homegrown talent like Chris Statlander, I'm hoping for another great showing by the two. Their previous outing was solid, and hopefully they can build upon that with an even better matchup here for the sequel. Mercedes Moné is the reigning and defending strong women's champion as well as the TBS champion, which is what's being defended here. And Chris Statlander having a solid year for herself, albeit she had a little bit of an interesting heel turn slash face turn with Stokely Hathaway that still wasn't really as smooth of a transition as we would have liked. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to actually be predicting that Chris Statlander emerges victorious, defeats Mercedes Moné, and earns the TBS championship back. Now, will this be a clean win? Will we see a return of Camille? I think that'll be an interesting prospect there. I think, if anything, whenever Mercedes Moné does lose the title, it probably will be in relation to some sort of chicanery by Camille. I think Chris Statlander is more than deserving of this title reign. She certainly has earned it with her consistency and how she's gone over with the crowd. I think Chris Statlander will be the new TBS champion walking out of World's End. We also have another championship on the line here, as Konosuke Takeshita will be facing off against Powerhouse Hobbs for the AEW International Championship, a title that really has gone under the radar in the last few months. I mean, Takeshita had a great 2024, a great showing in Japan and leading back into AEW by winning the championship itself. It's been associated with the likes of a Will Ospreay as well as MJF when it was changed as like the American title. But Takeshita is more than capable of being a champion who is not only a fighting champion, but also being able to put on the quality of matches that he's become accustomed of having. Now, Powerhouse Hobb, ever since having his return to AEW, has been linked with the Don Callis family and been trying to get his revenge towards Don Callis, and of course, in virtue, having this match against Takeshita. I do not see Takeshita losing the title. I have nothing against Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm a fan of his, but I do not see him defeating Takeshita for this title. I see him holding on to the title leading into 2025, and whoever will be the one to defeat Takeshita, hopefully we'll be able to say they benefited from a solid reign from Takeshita. I still think we have a little bit more that could be desired from this reign, but for the purpose of this video, I have him retaining the title. Sticking with championship aspirations here, the AEW Women's Championship will be defended in a Tijuana street fight, even though it's being held up in like Jersey. But Thunder Rosa will be trying to win the championship back as she challenges Mariah May, the women's champion, ever since winning the title at All In. And again, another matchup here that should be solid, has the potential, has two great wrestlers, and they're telling an interesting story here ever since Mariah May started targeting Thunder Rosa's father in those promos. I do think that Mariah May and Thunder Rosa have more capability of having a solid matchup, and when you add the intrigue of a street fight stipulation, it adds to the versatility of the pay-per-view, as well as the prospect of having this matchup be one of the big takeaways from World's End. But I don't see Thunder Rosa defeating Mariah May. I still think we're on a collision course here between Mariah May and her former mentor in Toni Storm. So with that being said, I think you know where I'm leaning here. I'm thinking Mariah May emerges victorious, wins the Tijuana street fight matchup. That way, eventually, she will face off against Toni Storm wherever that may take place. Not necessarily for a title, but it's still up for some kind of accolade, still some kind of accomplishment hangs in the balance as we see MJF versus Adam Cole for the Dynamite ring. Now, this is a ring that MJF has been the holder of ever since the inception of the concept back in 2019. I think he's running on 5 years now as the current holder and owner of the Dynamite Diamond ring. And it's really appropriate that we have this matchup here at World's End. Because a year ago at this pay-per-view in 2023, that's when this version of the story began, when Adam Cole was unmasked as the devil character and attacked MJF alongside the Undisputed Kingdom and Wardlow, who's been MIA for quite some time. It's really appropriate that we have this matchup here. Now, if you're like me, you're hoping that this is going to be it. You're hoping that this is going to be the night that we see it come to a conclusion. This storyline has been running for the better part of a year and a half, ever since Better Than You, Baby became a thing when MJF and Adam Cole teamed up. They were tag team champions for Ring of Honor. They had a great main event matchup at All In 2023. But then once the injuries began to creep in on Adam Cole and then MJF was out for some time there, we've seen some changes in the roles, whether it's heel and babyface, and it's been a little bit misconstrued among the fans here. It's been a divisive story for sure. I, for one, am a fan of both individuals, but I do think that this story has outweighed its welcome. I think we finally call it here. I think we move forward. If they continue this storyline, you're running the risk of the fans revolting against both competitors. And I know that there are a good chunk of people who are still fans of Adam Cole and MJF. And I think it's just a matter of the booking. I mean, again, the heel turns, the babyface turns, the way it's presented, it could have been done better, but they have an opportunity here to cap it off with an entertaining matchup between AEW's best, Adam Cole versus MJF. I think for the level of consistency, I don't see how Adam Cole wins this matchup. I think MJF wins. I think he retains his ownership of the AEW Dynamite Diamond Ring. I think he defeats Adam Cole. I don't know, honestly, I don't know where they go from here when it comes to both competitors. I think we just have to move on from this story. They tried it, it started out good, and then towards the end, we kind of lost the plot here. Again, I'm a fan of both individuals, but I think it's time to just separate these two for the time being. MJF goes over, and let's keep it moving. Now let's talk about the Continental Classic. The tournament that has been considered one of AEW's best inventions has taken quite the turn. I don't know what they're thinking here. I'm thinking maybe it's more in line of the booking. If you remember from last year, the 2023 event, we had both groups, the Gold League and the Blue League. And then once we got to the semifinals, it was basically the leader and the runner-up of both respective leagues. And with the winners of both leagues facing off in the final to crown the first ever Continental Champion. This year they've made the change where for some reason, it's a member of the Blue League against a member of the Gold League on one side of the bracket, and then a member of the Blue League and a member of the Gold League on the other side of the bracket. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me as an outsider. Now, we know the bookings of AEW are interesting, and Tony Khan certainly has his approach when it comes to the booking. But let's put it in the perspective of sports, because AEW tried to do that with the ranking system. If we're doing the NBA playoffs and we have the East versus the West, in the semifinals, why would we have the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers on the East, and then just to throw out some teams here, the Lakers and the Warriors for the West? Why would we take the Warriors against the Celtics and then the Cavs versus the Lakers? Because you're left with a potential East versus East or West versus West finals. It would make more sense to have the best of the Blue League versus the best of the Gold League, but they're not doing that. And I'm thinking it's because they don't want to see Okada lose in the semis. They want to have him in the finals, booking themselves in a corner here. I think it's an interesting choice. I'm not in favor for it just because logically I don't think it's sound. But nonetheless, that's my little spiel on the new change to the Continental Classic. In one of the semifinals, we have Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in their highly anticipated rematch. Both matches here, both semi-matches, should be bangers. They should be fire. Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher having already a win over Will Ospreay. I'm picking Will. I think Kyle Fletcher would definitely benefit from it, but I'm picking Will to get the upper hand on Kyle Fletcher, gets his win back, gets to move on to the finals, and we'll see from there what they do with Will Fletcher. Will Ospreay, clearly one of the top stars, if not the top wrestler in All Elite Wrestling. His level of just the character work, the in-ring work for sure is unmatched. You could argue Will Ospreay was the wrestler of the year in 2024. I don't see him losing against Kyle Fletcher unless there's some sort of interference. But even then, the Continental Classic is built upon the idea of no interference and just pure graps. Will Ospreay goes over, in my opinion. Then we have Continental Classic, the other semi match. We have Okada versus Ricochet. Ricochet's been being pushed here as a heel, and a cocky heel at that, which I really like. Some people are very divisive on Ricochet and his in-ring style, and some people are very divisive on him on his mic skills. But this new character tweak of Ricochet, I'm a fan of. They're leaning into it. They're really getting on the nerves of the fan, which I think is a smart move here. You can make money off of that. And Ricochet embracing this new heelish persona. He has this one laugh that he's been trying to get over. And even if it doesn't get over, it's annoying enough where it's still heel work. So I think Ricochet versus Okada in ring should be fantastic. But for the purpose of continuity, and again, as the only explanation why they would change the format of the semis, I think Okada beats Ricochet, and we get Okada versus Will Ospreay as the Continental Final. You know, Tony Khan is a huge fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling and how their main stars are now his main stars. I mean, look no further than Okada, Omega, Will Ospreay, just to name a few. And what a matchup here between two of New Japan's premier stars. Okada versus Will Ospreay, another great showing by these two. And the winner of it all to be the new Continental Champion. It's interesting, man. I don't know. It's a toss-up here because you could make a case for any of the four to win. But when you narrow it down to Okada versus Will Ospreay, I think we're going to go Will Ospreay. I think Will Ospreay has had a great 2024. I think Okada as the Continental Champion was quite the choice. I mean, in retrospect, maybe not the best booking of Okada, but definitely when you want something like the Continental Classic to get over, the inaugural winner was Eddie Kingston, gives it to Okada, who's a great star in his own right. Maybe you give it to Will Ospreay, who again, huge star in his own right. I think we go Will Ospreay here. He's made it his mission to win this tournament and to win this championship. I think he fulfills his destiny and fulfills his wish to cap off 2024 as the winner of the second ever Continental Classic. But we talk about winning championships and fulfilling dreams and fulfilling goals. And really, the goal of it all is to be the AEW World Champion. And in tonight's, or rather, on the night's main event, it will be a fatal four-way matchup to crown the AEW World Champion, as Jon Moxley, the leader of the Death Riders, has not one, not two, but three challengers at his feet. We have, obviously, one of the premier stars of All Elite Wrestling, Orange Cassidy, who had a matchup at Full Gear against Jon Moxley, although he was unsuccessful. He'll get another crack at that match as well. But also a match that took place at Full Gear has both competitors involved. Hangman Adam Page, a former AEW World Champion in his own right, and Switchblade Jay White. This matchup, I think, is the main selling point of the pay-per-view. Obviously, I'm looking forward to the Continental Classic matchups, both semis and the final, but this Fatal 4-Way matchup should deliver. It's very difficult for multi-man matches, whether it's four-ways or triple threats, to not deliver. So I'm hoping we're going to have a great showing by four of the best that AEW has to offer. The storyline, obviously, is the Death Riders and Jon Moxley taking over All Elite Wrestling, holding the world title hostage, as well as the trios titles hostage as well. But the main story here is who is going to be the guy to step up to Jon Moxley, who is going to unseat him as the king of AEW. Could it be Orange Cassidy, who has been a perennial favorite of the AEW audience? He's been a homegrown guy, a day one guy, if you will. Or will it be Jay White, who, again, a New Japan star, one of the best in pro wrestling, Switchblade, this cocky, arrogant heel that's become a lovable babyface now? Will he be able to lay claim to the king of AEW? How about Hangman Adam Page, who was one of the first signings to AEW? was one of the big faces of AEW and even won the World Championship, capping off one of the best rises in pro wrestling in recent memory. If you ask me, it's none of them. Jon Moxley walks out as the AEW World Championship. It's a four-way. We know there's going to be some kind of interference. I'm pretty sure we're going to get the Death Riders to be involved. Pac, Claudio, and Marina Shafir, as well as Wheeler Yuta, they're going to have their presence known. We know it's going to be for a fact. Jon Moxley wins the matchup, retains the championship, one because of the numbers game, but also because I think the guy's Darby. Darby Allin is going to be the next world champion. He is being set up to be the next face of AEW. He's one of the four pillars. Darby Allin should be the guy to defeat Jon Moxley and win the title. I think possibly at Revolution. I think that's where they're going to pull the trigger. I'm all for Darby. I'm a fan of Allin. I'm hoping it happens soon. But right now, on this night, World's End, the world's title will not end for Jon Moxley. But I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts and opinions on the build to World's End? Who were some of your favorite wrestlers from AEW? What are some of your predictions for the upcoming matches? Make sure you comment down below in the comments section. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked the video and if you agree with my predictions. If not, hey, subscribe to the channel. That way you can troll in the comments and also take part in the conversation, whether it's on the live streams, whether it's on the J Area Wrestling podcast. We talk all things pro wrestling, not just AEW, WWE on occasion, TNA as well. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for joining me in today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one.